A reading from the Holy Gospel according to John. There was a Jewish festival, and Jesus went up to Jerusalem. Now at the sheep pool in Jerusalem, there is a building called Bethsaida in Hebrew, consisting of 5 porticos, and under these were crowds of sick people, blind, lame, paralyzed, waiting for the water to move. One man there had an illness which had lasted 38 years. And when Jesus saw him lying there and knew he had been there in this condition for a long time, he said, "Do you want to be well again?" "Sir," replied the sick man, "I have no one to put me into the pool when the water is disturbed. And while I am still on the way, someone else gets there before me." Jesus said, "Get up, pick up your sleeping mat and walk." The man was cured at once, and he picked up his mat and walked away. Now that day happened to be the Sabbath. So the Jews said to the man who had been cured, "It is the Sabbath. We are not allowed to carry your mat." He replied, "But the man who cured me told me, 'Pick up your mat and walk.'" They asked, "Who is the man who said to you, 'Pick up your mat and walk'?" The man had no idea who it was, since Jesus had disappeared into the crowd that filled the place. After a while, Jesus met him in the temple and said, "Now you are well again. Be sure not to sin anymore, or something worse may happen to you." The man went back and told the Jews that it was Jesus who had cured him. It was because he did things like this on the Sabbath that the Jews began to persecute Jesus. The Gospel of the Lord. Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ. Let us look at today's Gospel passage at 2 levels. The first level is at the time of Jesus, when this paralyzed man encountered Jesus. Now he was lying there, and according to tradition, that pool of water was supposed to be stirred by the angels, and the first person who went inside would be cured. Now we are not going to discuss in detail this legend about the healing effect of the moving water. It was just a make-believe for the people of the time. For us, we don't think that is the real case. But nonetheless, that was the common beliefs of the people of the time. And the man hoped that he could get there first and be healed. But for 38 years, he was not able. Then he met Jesus. And Jesus asked him a question: "Do you want to be healed?" We may say that this question seems too obvious. Of course, he wanted to be healed. But perhaps not necessarily so, because this man had been so used to just lying around, and because of his physical conditions, he could beg for food, he could ask for mercy, and some people would help him. So he would at least have the basic needs satisfied. Now to change that entirely, suddenly he will be able to walk. He had to adjust to a new situation that for so many years he had not experienced. Yet the desire of the man was very clear. He really wanted to walk. And he said, "Yes, sir." Jesus healed him. Then Jesus asked him, "Take up your mat and walk." The man responded by actually sprung into actions, carried his mat and walked. If he did not believe in Jesus, he would still be wandering there, lying there and say, "What? Take the mat, walk? But I can't walk." But he made that effort to stand up, and he did, stood up and walked, and he was healed. He believed in Jesus. There is a second level of reflection. This time we reflect at the level of the time of the writing of the Gospel of John. When John wrote the Gospel, he wanted to teach his readers a further lesson. So likely, John was making a reflection about the reality of the past in contrast to those who have experienced Jesus, who believe in Jesus. So the 5 porticos would represent the 5 books of Moses, and those who were sick, the paralyzed, the blind, the lame, they represent people of the Old Testament time. They had the law, but the law could not really provide them a way of life that is truly life-giving and loving. They followed the law, people like the scribes and the Pharisees, but they lack that inner strength, that inner ability to really live up to the lives that God intended them to have, by being too caught up with the letters of the law. Now the water of the pool symbolizes the waters of baptism. And when someone moves out of the shadow of the Old Testament mentality, receive Jesus, believe in Him, receive the water of baptism, then he can gain new life. Like the paralyzed man, when we encounter the Lord, when we are open to Him, when we allowed Him to touch our lives, when we are prepared to get rid of our old ways of life, when we want to really change for the better, then the Lord can touch us and heal us, and we can walk in the newness of life. Let us open our hearts to the Lord, allowing Jesus to really take control of us. If there is any areas of our life that is restricting us, that is causing us to stumble and not be able to walk properly in the Lord, let us allow Him to come and heal us and make us whole again. Of course, that means that we desire to cooperate with Him. We are willing to take up our mats and walk. And we will experience the abundance of life in the Lord. God bless.